All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Random Banter Podcast. This is episode 83, and I'm your host, Ethan.
I'm your co-host, Will.
Yeah, and today we have a very wonderful guest on. His name is Dean Karnazes, most known for his ultra marathon running and writing more books than I can name. But yeah, Dean, how you doing today?
I'm all right. Thanks for having me run by. How are you guys?
Yeah. Well, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
We're doing pretty good. Had a little bit of technical difficulties earlier today, but that's fine. We roll with it. So Dean, I'm curious. Like, I mean, obviously, we'll get into other questions about like your current like running and everything you've done, but like, how did you first discover that you really enjoyed like running itself?
I first started running home from kindergarten when I was a young boy. So my first memories of being alive is running from school back to my house. And this is I grew up in LA, so I was in LA. It was a safer time, obviously, in the world that a mother would let her kid run about a mile back from school every day. But
Yeah.
I loved it. I remember loving it, and that's kind of how I related to the world is just through running. I ran competitively in junior high school and then as a freshman in high school, and we won the championship. And I thought, okay, that's as far as I'm ever going to take my running. Like, the glory days are here. Retire while at your prime. And so I
Yeah.
stopped running when I was 15. And then, somehow finished high school. I went to college. Then I went to graduate school. And then I went to business school and got an MBA. And I had this comfortable corporate job in San Francisco.
Mhm.
Uh, it was like everything you could ever want for, right? I mean, a great company, a fat paycheck, bonuses, stock options, a company
Right.
car.
All right. Yeah. The whole package.
And, and I was 30 years old. I was just about to turn 30. The night of my 30th birthday, I was in a bar in San Francisco with my buddies doing what maybe you guys will do on your 30th birthday. We were drunk, we were drinking, we were getting drunk.
Yeah.
And midnight, I told them, hey, I'm leaving. And they said, where are you going? It's your 30th birthday. The night is young. Let's have another round of tequila to celebrate. And I said, no, I'm going to run 30 miles to celebrate instead.
Nice.
And they looked at me and they said, but you're not a runner. You're drunk. And I said, yeah, I am, but I'm still going to do it. So I walked out of this bar in San Francisco. I didn't even own running gear, but I had on these comfortable like silk boxer shorts, like silk underwear. And
Mhm.
I peeling off my pants and just throwing them down the alleyway and stumbling, into the night, heading south. There's a town called Half Moon Bay that's
Mhm.
30 miles away from San Francisco. And I thought, just run to Half Moon Bay. And, 10 miles, not even 10, maybe 8 miles down the road, I started sobering up and I thought, what the hell are you doing? This is really stupid, really bad idea. But it just felt right. It felt like, wow, I love to run. And I'm remembering those feelings I had as a young boy. And like, this is why I'm on earth, is to be a runner.
Yeah.
Uh, hate being a business guy. Yeah, I was making a lot of money, whatever. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. So I quit my corporate job and said, I'm going to be a runner. And that was like 3 decades ago. I'm still a runner. Yeah.
Yeah. Still going. Yeah. So, just out of curiosity, like with all of the races that you've done, is there one specific one that stands out to you in any way? Whether that be like where you were running or like, I mean, I guess it could be good or bad, like how it went, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, for you guys and for your audience, these races I do are not a typical running race. I mean, this is not a
Or
guy running around a college track. I mean, these are extreme ultra marathons in the most extreme environments on Earth. So one of the races I do is called the Badwater Ultra Marathon, and it's 135 miles across Death Valley
oh,
in the middle of summer. And Death Valley is the hottest place on Earth. So the temperatures can get up above 130 degrees during the day. And not only is it the hottest place, Badwater is the lowest point in the Western Hemisphere. And 135 miles from that is Mount Whitney, which is the highest in the contiguous US. So it's the concept of running from the lowest point to the highest point,
Uh-huh.
through Death Valley. And that is an insanely difficult race.
Yeah, no, I bet. I mean, that sounds.
Yeah, that sounds pretty brutal.
Yeah, I can't even imagine doing that.
When your shoes melt, it's pretty hot out. Yeah. But
I read your book Ultramarathon Man. In it, whenever you talked about that race, didn't you talk about how the food that you ate, like the toast, the bread would become toasted just because of the heat of the air?
Really?
yeah, yeah, I remember my crew, which was my dad. I said I want a peanut butter and honey sandwich. So he made me a sandwich and he handed it out the window. And I ran, I don't know, maybe 100 yards trying to get enough moisture in my mouth to take a bite. And then I took a bite and it was toasted. Why did my dad bring a toaster? Like, where does he toast something in that car? And I realized it was so hot the bread was toasting.
Oh my God. I just
That's
that is just insane. That is just crazy, crazy conditions. What's the next race you're planning on running in?
Well, I do a lot of races. So, this year I've probably done a dozen races.
Mhm.
Everything from a half marathon, which is, 13.1 miles, all the way to last race I did was 110 miles.
Yeah.
So I'm racing constantly throughout the year. But the next big project I have is to try to run from the lowest point on Earth to the highest point on Earth.
Ooh.
Okay.
I'm going to quiz you guys. What's the highest point on Earth?
Uh,
That's
is
the question. The
is it? I mean, is it Everest?
Yeah, Mount Everest.
When I ask people that question, they think it's holy. Everyone knows it's Everest. So Everest is the highest point on Earth. Do you know
Mhm.
the lowest point on Earth?
I
I have no idea.
I honestly don't. It.
It's the Dead Sea in Jordan.
Ah,
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so I'm going to try to run from the lowest point to the highest point.
So
And that's yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it's a lot of questions, right? Yeah.
how are you gonna run up Everest?
I say run, but I mean I'm gonna run as much as I can.
Well, of
Maybe
course.
run to Kathmandu and then run as much as I can to get to base camp. But obviously, when I go up Everest, I'm gonna be hiking like everyone else. I'm not gonna be running.
mhm.
Yeah.
The point is all on foot, to go from the lowest point to the highest point.
Yes. Yeah.
What's the mileage of that race?
Yeah.
It's a good question because the shortest distance is about 3,500 miles,
Woo!
but that goes well. I've run across the U.S. before, so I've run
Right.
3,000 miles from L.A. to New York, but so this is a little bit further. But the shorter route goes through Iraq and Iran, and those are not such safe places to go running through.
Yeah.
So the safer route is about 5,000 miles, and that goes up through the stands like Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
So it adds a lot of distance, but it is a little more runner friendly, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's
I'm,
5,000 miles. That's crazy.
I can't.
Signing up crew members right now. So if you want to come crew for me, you guys.
I don't know. But yeah, so one of the distances that you ran was 350 miles continuously. And I'm just really curious, like, what was the experience like running 350 miles, like continuously, like I just said, like doing that?
It was kind of like a psychological trip, if you will.
Yeah.
The first 2 nights without sleep, I was okay. Because you don't sleep when you do this. I mean, running, and obviously you're running. It was over 80 hours. So, by the third night, I was starting to kind of go in and out of, kind of semi hallucinating. I couldn't really tell what was real, what wasn't.
Yeah.
You, your mind kind of gets a little bit lost, if you will. And I would just remember telling myself, just take your next step. Just take your next step. Like, don't think about anything. Don't think about how much further you've got to go. Don't think about the past. Just, focus on something simple that you know how to do. Take your next step. Because I couldn't conceive too many things at once. I mean, I was pretty much reduced to just a single action of running, one
Yeah.
foot seven from the next. Yeah.
Is that like the farthest distance that you've run continuously, or have you ever gone farther than that?
I mean, when you say continuously, that's like the furthest I've run in one push.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I've run, yeah, I mean, like I said, I ran across America, which was, 3,000 miles in 75 days. I ran 50 marathons in all of the 50 states in
Yeah.
50 days. So I've gone, longer distances, but not like without stopping or anything like that. Mm.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so you said that you ran the 50 marathons in 50 days, and you wrote a book about that, right?
Yes. Mm.
How often would you say that you run a marathon, just like in your daily training?
Sometimes I'll bust out a marathon before breakfast.
Jeez. Dude, I'm lucky to get out of bed before breakfast.
Have your Cheerios tomorrow morning. Think of me out there. Yeah.
So, you also talk about in your books how you eat while you're running, and sometimes you'll like call places and have them delivered to you in the middle of your runs. And I remember you talking about eating a pizza where you ordered it without any like slices and you folded it up like a burrito.
What?
Like just how how do you keep a hold of it
Oh,
running?
yeah. And let me set the stage. I mean, it was a 200-mile race. So it was a 12-person relay race
Mhm.
that I didn't have 11 friends. So I just asked if I could do the whole 200 by myself.
Cool.
Yeah. I was, and it was like the middle, it was getting late. It was like almost midnight. And I ran out of food and I was on this like backcountry road out in the middle of nowhere. I didn't have a crew or anything, but I had a cell phone and a credit card. And I mean, this is back in the 90s when I mean, it was a Motorola flip phone. It was not like a smartphone. It was when phones first came. I remember you could dial 611, which was like information. And I dialed 611 and I said, can you put me through to a pizza, a pizza parlor? And they said there's a Domino's. Oh no, there was it wasn't Domino's. What was it? I can't even remember the name of the pizza place. It wasn't Domino's. There was another one. And I told because Domino's wouldn't deliver unless you had a street address. And I said, I don't have a street address. I'm running.
I'm
But
on.
I said to the guy, make it with a thin crust and then don't slice it. And then when he delivered it to me as I was running, he handed the box out the window, and I rolled up the like a burrito, like a pizzerito, half mode as I ran, and I ate the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
That is wild.
What's
I was still hungry.
I bet. Yeah.
what would you say like the weirdest thing that you've eaten during a run to keep yourself going is?
Uh, in Australia, there's these things called witchetty grubs. You know what a witchetty grub is?
I've never heard of that.
No.
It's basically a worm, but it's a big worm. It's maybe this big and it's
Oh.
fat. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
Oh.
and they roast them. They roast them and they salt them lightly. So I've had witchetty grubs when I was running across the outback in Australia.
Oh my goodness. So,
That does not sound
Try some of those in your Cheerios. Yeah.
yeah, no. So just out of curiosity, with all of the running that you do, how do you prevent like hurting yourself or like injuring yourself? Especially for like as long as you do runs, like how do you prevent like not fatigue, but like injury or strain?
I do a lot of cross training.
Mhm.
So I don't just run. I think if you just run, you might be a good runner, but eventually you're going to break. And I don't want to break. Yeah. So I do a lot of leg strengthening. I do a lot of hit training. I prepare my body really well. The other thing
Mhm.
is that I've got very good biomechanics. So my alignment for a runner is really good. I don't pronate or supinate. I'm 100% Greek, and the original marathoner came from Greece.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, uh, So, my dad always says, you're from a family that chased goats in the mountains of Greece. Tell him, Dad, we grew up in LA. Like, what goats in the mountains of
I,
Greece?
I don't think it still exists in LA.
But I've got good alignment, and that's hereditary. You inherit your alignment.
Mhm.
There's a saying that the best thing you can do as a long distance runner is to choose your parents well.
Fair, yeah. But yeah, so just out of curiosity, like I want to know what kind of shoes do you wear? Feel free to
Yeah, that's it.
plug whatever. Yeah, I was like we had it on the list and I was just really curious. Like do you go through different kinds of shoes? Do you like stick with one specific kind or
No, I experiment a lot. So I
Mm,
use all different types of shoes, and everything from mainstream shoes like a Nike or a Puma, to shoes like Hoka. I don't know if you're heard of Hoka. They're like
okay.
a newer brand. Yeah. There's a brand that I'm working with now called Speedland, and
Oh,
they're a trail specific, like a high performance trail running shoe, and they have no laces. I mean, if you want to, after the interview, just Google their site. It's Run Speedland. The shoes are amazing, and there's like it's got a BOA lacing system, so there's no laces to tie, and it's incredible for like micro tuning your shoe on the run.
how do those like stay tight on
Yeah.
your feet without tie-able laces?
Yeah, it's got a thing. It's called a BOA lacing system, like a BOA constrictor. So it's got a
Oh,
little have a little dial, and you slightly
Like
dial
Paul.
it. Yeah,
yeah.
check them out. They're like so far advanced for a running shoe. It's like
I
next level, and
Huh.
it's great technology. And they weigh. If you saw them and you picked up a pair, you'd think it's like there's a balloon or helium in there or something. They're so
Yeah.
light. The material they use. I mean, they're expensive. I mean, they're like $275.
Woo.
So these guys just said it's a bunch of it's two ex Nike guys that said, we're sick of designing shoes where we have cost restraints on us from the accounting department. We're just
Mm.
going to build the best damn shoe we can build. Whatever
Yeah.
whatever it costs, it costs. Some people will be interested in it, but we're not going to compromise on anything. And I really love that shoe.
Yeah. No, I mean, it sounds interesting. I mean, I've never heard of shoes with a dial on the
Yeah,
side to
that's
tighten it before. That's fascinating.
um
Um,
how many like pairs of shoes do you go through?
oh
Like
yeah.
like I feel like after a couple days they're gonna get torn up from all the running you do.
I mean, I've got an entire closet that is just shoes. I've got two closets. I've got rooms. It would blow your mind if you came to my house and looked. So many shoes, yeah. And in various states of wear. Some are brand new, like prototypes to test out. Others are ones I've worn out, but I love them, so I just keep them. And every once in a while, I'll put them on. But yeah, no, my life has been really interesting in that way. I've gotten to test a lot of shoes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there a specific like style of clothing that is better worn like running that's like more breathable or like something that'll help you I don't know help you go faster? I'm not a runner. I don't really know. So I'm just curious. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm Greek, so I run in a toga.
Fair. Just like they did back in marathon.
No, yeah, the running, the gear, the apparel, they call it, makes a
Mm,
big difference because like the shirt I'm wearing right now and the shirts look like you guys are wearing are probably cotton
Mhm.
and
mm.
they're not so breathable. And if you go and work out in them, you're kind of miserable. You're hot,
Yeah.
you're soaking wet, you stink. So
Yeah.
the clothes I wear they're called wicking fabric. So it takes the perspiration from your skin, it pulls it into your fabric, and then the apparent wind that you generate when you're moving forward through running removes it, basically evaporates the perspiration, and that evaporative cooling actually makes your body cooler. So getting good running apparel gear really makes a difference.
Yeah. No, and I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever like if there's someone new getting into running or someone who's like starting out on their running career, what are some things that they should avoid? What are some like common like mistakes that people make?
Listening to other people. I always say listen to everyone but follow no one. So I don't like having very rigid training plans because we're all different.
Mhm.
I think that goes with diet as well. So I think that the best thing to do is to read a lot of sources. Now you can go on GPT or something, and you can get a whole range of opinions. But the best thing to do, I would say, is invest in a good pair of shoes. So start from the ground up, and you're going to spend some money, but it's going to be worth it. You're going to be more comfortable. You're going to be less prone to injury. So get a good pair of shoes, get some good running gear, apparel, and then just try to run for 5 minutes. I tell people. Most people can't do it. You're probably going, oh, I can run for 5 minutes. Most people, they sprint like really fast for the first 2 minutes, and then they're fried and they have to walk. And I tell
Mm.
them, no, you got to learn to pace yourself. That's really important in running, is learning how to pace yourself. So just set a goal of running for 5 continuous minutes, being exhausted when you finish the 5 minutes, but not walking at all. And that'll be a good start.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd say so. I'd agree.
You talked about your nutrition. Is it like what kind of foods do you eat? Like before, during, and after your runs?
I'm pretty good about my diet. I don't eat so much pizza anymore. So I try to eat only foods from the earth. Like I tell people if I can't pick it from a tree or dig it from the ground or eat it, catch it with my hands, I don't eat it.
Fair.
So I
Yeah.
try to avoid anything that's processed and refined. Definitely try to avoid anything in a bag.
Mm.
Uh,
Hmm.
during my race, my racing, I really like nut butters. So they're like tear packs. I don't know if you've seen the gel packs that a lot of runners
Yeah.
use. These are like hazelnut butter or almond nut butter, maybe mixed with some honey. I like that seems to sit really well in my stomach where the gels are just so sweet.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one of the things I'm a little curious about is that Will mentioned to me that you've accomplished a lot on treadmills too. So, what does running on a treadmill? How does that compare to like obviously running outside and like actually covering distance as opposed to being in one spot and running?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. That when you're running on a treadmill, you can basically because the belt is moving under you. If it's a typical treadmill that has a belt that you don't have to drive with your own foot strikes, the
Mm.
belt's moving under you, so you just need to focus on lifting your foot, more than propelling your body forward. So
Yeah.
there's a different type of technique. Well, if you're training on a treadmill, you can train as you regularly run. But
Yeah.
when I try to do these like I ran one time 100, almost 150 miles in 24 hours on a treadmill.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That is.
And I was just focusing on just trying to lift my feet, to let the belt go under me. A
Yeah.
little bit of a, and even that gets hard though. I mean, even just lifting your foot
Yeah.
after running on a treadmill. Yeah.
Mhm.
Whenever you're like running that kind of distance, obviously, like especially on a treadmill, you start seeing the same things over and over again. So like, what kind of like mind games do you play while you're running?
Well, I mean, this particular endeavor of 24 hours on a treadmill, it was actually in Times Square in
Oh.
Manhattan.
Like
So
out in public area? Like,
I was on a two-story platform in the
Oh my
sky.
gosh.
Yeah. And all the
Wow.
plasma, the plasmatron screens, the
Yeah.
jumbotrons, they were all filming me as it was running on this treadmill. So there was a lot to look at. I mean, Times
Yeah.
Square is such a weird place normally, and to have me
I
on a
bet
treadmill,
I bet the people watching was fantastic. Yeah.
Harry Krishner's that set up like this worship prayer player below me, like like they started worshiping me. These Harry Krishners,
Oh my
and they had
god.
nuts out. It was psychotic. I'm like, get me out of here. Yeah.
Yeah, that is wild. So, just out of curiosity, and if you don't know this number, that is completely okay, but how many different countries have you run in?
Yeah, I think it's close to 100.
Wow.
It's no, I've run on all 7 continents twice. So I think it's
Including Antarctica?
yes, yes. Which
Wow.
is not a country. So, Antarctica is not a country per
Well, yeah,
se. So
of course.
I count that as one. Just going to Antarctica is one of the countries. But
Yes.
then,
Yeah.
you know, Peru, Namibia, New Zealand, Fiji. I mean, I could go on and on. I think it's about 100.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is wild.
You've obviously met a bunch of people while you're running. Who would you say some of like the most like standout people are that you've met?
Ah, wow. I mean, there's so many people, but I remember I met a woman that was running a marathon with me, and she was kind of shy, but we started talking, and she said that she was a cancer survivor, and I said, "Oh, wow."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "What kind of cancer?" And she said, "Well, I had breast cancer." I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She said, "I had a double mastectomy.
Whoa.
It's like both her boobs were cut off."
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. She said, "It's okay. They just slowed me down. I didn't need them anyway."
Oh, well, I mean, that's a good way to look
And
at
that's
it.
a good attitude. Yeah.
Yeah. So now that we're kind of winding into the little like latter half of this episode, I want to like get to know a little bit more about you, Dean. Like what's some stuff you do outside of running. So we're gonna hit you with a couple little like little quick fire questions here. So do you enjoy watching like television at all?
Not so much.
Okay, well that's fair. No, it's okay. That's completely fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, just what about like, do you prefer dogs or cats?
God, I love them both.
Well, that's fair. That's fair.
I don't know if I can decide. I've had great dogs and great cats, so yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean that's completely fair. Do you have like, I mean, obviously, during running, you probably have a favorite food, but do you have a favorite food just like outside of running that might be like, I don't know, something that you just enjoy getting on occasion?
I'll tell you my one weakness, and mostly while I'm running, is
Okay.
chocolate covered espresso beans.
Ooh, that does
You gotta
sound
try
good.
those. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Um,
addicting. Just be careful. They're addicting.
no, yeah, I've never had them, but they sound
That
good.
sound pretty
I
good.
mean, especially like getting a whole bag of them. Do you have a favorite movie?
Ah, yeah. I mean, I kind of old school. Like, there's a movie called Whiplash. I don't know if you guys have seen
Oh yeah,
Whiplash.
yeah.
It's a great. Uh, The Fight Club. That's a good movie.
Fair,
Yeah.
fair. Yes.
I studied classics. So Gladiator it's kind of a later period because it's Roman, but I
Yeah.
kind of Gladiator is really well written. And every dude loves that movie.
I mean, of course. Yeah. Yeah. So, real quick before we end the episode, there's one little segment that we like to do on every episode of the podcast. It's called Random Records. It's pretty much where I like to hear about like what kind of music the guests like to listen to. And I'm assuming sometimes on your runs you listen to music. I don't know if you do it all the time, but what are like I mean now like what is your like what's your go-to playlist? What's your go-to music that you like to put on?
You guys you don't even know these bands, I don't think. But have you heard of a band called Joy Division?
Say it again?
Joy Division.
I've not heard of
I've
that.
not heard of
No.
them now.
Yeah. X. Have you heard of X?
Also no.
Nope.
No.
These are like great bands of the '80s, like when I was your age.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, you probably heard of Oasis, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not so into the to rap music. I mean, some rap music, like my
Eh.
son loves rap music. I'm not so hot on it.
I
Yeah.
mean,
One thing I do, I listen to audiobooks more than I
oh,
listen to music. So I have about 500 audiobooks on my playlist of all different types of genre. Yeah.
Well,
But
what would you say some of your favorite audiobooks are
yeah,
that you've
yeah.
listened
Like,
to?
what are your favorite books?
Uh, I mean, they deal with like ancient Greece. One is called The Cave in the Light, the struggle for the Western mind, and it's basically a compare and contrast between Plato and Aristotle. And I know probably sounds like boring, and it sounds like a
No,
class.
nah, no.
If you guys listen to this book, I think you'd be fascinated because it pretty much talks about human behavior, like at its base, most basis. So I think there's a lot to be learned from these books, and they're interesting. The way the stories are told, they're not so boring. It's not like sitting in a lecture class, on history.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I bet especially like when you're running, like listening to that is also good too.
Yeah, I mean, you could listen to, I've made sure that the narrators of my books have really good voices. I
Fair.
tried it one, narrated one of my books, and it was kind of, it was a long ultra marathon. So I said I'm going to use like actors to narrate my future books, and they're like trained. And so if you
Mhm.
listen to, like Ultra Marathon Man, it's a great story, and the guy who reads it, the narrator, is really good at bringing it to life.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So just, I mean, real quick, I just thought about this. Since you've mentioned like ancient Greece and like Greek stuff a lot, are you like, I'm assuming you're familiar with like Greek mythology and like
mean, I'm
some of
100% Greek, so I know, yeah, I know. I mean, I'm a bit more steeped in classic history, but I know, of course, I know some mythology. Yeah.
well, then in that case, do you have a, well, this could be mythological or historical, like a favorite like figure from ancient Greece? Like that could be a real person or a mythological person, either or.
Yeah, oh, I mean, we'll start with mythological, maybe mythological, but Odysseus,
Oh, of course. Yeah.
yeah, Achilles Achilles. I don't know if you know Achilles.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
there was a Greek mathematician that was so much more than a mathematician. You probably have heard of him. It's we say in the West, Pythagoras.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pythagoras. His shit is really powerful, and it's not about the mathematics so much.
Yeah.
Socrates is a really interesting character. The only thing I know is that I know nothing at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
The unexamined life is not worth living. I mean, some of these quotes, so pertain to modern day. So
Of
yeah,
course.
certainly Plato, Aristotle, Alexander the Great. I mean, the story of Alexander and what he did, at your age, basically, I don't, mid-20s, how he conquered almost all of the world. If he hadn't died, he might have conquered the whole world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of him was just this savage killer, and the other part is like this enlightened deity. I mean, he's
Yeah.
treated people. He'd conquer like entire kingdoms, and then he'd say, "You guys, you run yourself. Like, just keep doing what you're doing. You're better than I could do it." After he just like conquered these kids,
Yeah.
so he's really progressive. Although he was like, on the other hand, he was like a cold-blooded killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So now again, coming into the end of the episode here, do you have like any kind of upcoming, I know you mentioned your run that's coming soon. Do you have any other upcoming projects or things that you plan on accomplishing soon that you want to plug?
I mean, not to, I'm doing these running tours in Greece. So, I mean, if any of you want to come and run in Greece and like learn history, but seeing it and eating great food and, having fun and going to clubs at night if you want or whatever, uh,
Yeah.
trying to get more people to Greece that are interested in Greek history, interested in having fun in Greece, in both modern and ancient, but want to do it on their feet. They don't want to like take an Uber or anything like that. So
Yeah.
it's a running Greece, and when I say running, it's more like jogging and fast hiking. It's not hardcore running,
Of course.
but it's just called Greek running tours. I mean, if you're interested, you could just Google it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about like books? I've really enjoyed reading a couple of your books. So do you have any more books that you're planning on writing?
Well, I have five actually,
Mhm.
and my most recent one is called A Runner's High.
Yeah.
And one reason I really like it is it's about going back to this race called the Western States 100-mile endurance run, which I first ran back in 1992. And I ran it again in 2018. And my son Nicholas was like my crew. Like you work really closely with your crew, like they're essential. And he's I don't know, my son Nicholas, he went to USC, but University of South Carolina on the East Coast. He's from San Francisco.
Yeah.
But I think, come on, he's a kid. He's kind of a partier. He's kind of, he's like you guys. I mean, he's got some, he likes to hang out with his friends. I kind of thought he was a flake. Like, his room is just, he used to complain about his roommates being so sloppy. And every time I opened the door to his room, it was like the Tasmanian devil lived in there. It was a shit.
Yeah.
So he said, "Dad, I want a crew for you." And I just thought, oh God, this is gonna be a disaster. Because you need to have like your drink at mile 85 ready. You need to come into these aid stations and kind of have shit dialed because it's,
Right.
you really push your body. And he blew my mind. He was so good, so on it,
Nice.
everything completely perfect. And I couldn't believe it. And so he was up all night crewing for me. We got to the finish. We're in a town that's like 3 hours from San Francisco, maybe 4 hours. And I was like, let's go crash in the Airbnb. Like, thanks, Nick. He's like, oh no, I'm gonna go meet some buddies in San Francisco.
Oh my gosh. He's still going. He just was still going.
Still out there somewhere, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So, now that we're getting into the end of the episode, there's always something that I have my guests do, that we have the guests do on every episode, and it is to shout out my friend's dad, Chad Hankins. So,
Chad?
yes, yeah. So, Dean, would you mind giving a quick little shout out to Mr. Chad Hankins?
Hey, Mr. Chad Hankins. You guys told me you're gonna run a marathon with me, so I'm looking forward to it. I hope you're ready, brother. Good luck.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's really all we had for you today. Thanks for coming on the episode. This was a really, really, really great episode. Will, do you have anything else for him?
Not really. Thanks for coming on and spending some of your time on here, because I obviously you have a very busy schedule. You do a lot of stuff.
No, I appreciate Ethan. You were so persistent. Like this guy, yeah, he never gives up, and I love that spirit. So it's really great conversation.
Of course.
Yeah. We should both well. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So, do you have anything else before we sign off the episode, real quick?
No, I mean, if people want to find me, I heard someone told me if you Google Dean, I'm the first Dean that comes up. So
hey, that's a win.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a website. I'm on social media. My books are on Amazon and other places. So I'm not hard to find if you want to look up more about me. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, this has been episode 83 of the Random Banter Podcast. I'm your host, Ethan. I had my co-host Will on today, and our wonderful guest, Mr. Dean Karnazes, on the episode. Thanks everyone for listening and watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.